you've been using Excel for a while, you've probably come across the COUNTIFS function. Suppose you want to know how many Clippy icons there are in this column. You select the criterion range, you select the icon that you want to count, and close the function. It tells you there are 2 Clippy icons. It has a sibling, of course, SUMIFS. Suppose you want to sum each of the numbers here that are parallel to a Clippy icon, and it works with a table. You select the sum range, select the criterion range, select Clippy, and it returns your answer. Unfortunately, these functions have a little problem. They're perfectly fine with structured table references or with cell ranges, but they can't do virtual cell ranges, which is my term for things that are generated by functions and don't actually appear on the spreadsheet. Say, for example, that you generate the numbers 1 to 5 with a sequence. They look fine, don't they? It's generating just normally. And COUNTIFS would pretty much be able to count them just like anything else if it was using these cell references. But let's try fitting this inside of a COUNTIFS function. Ready? Let's just count how many there are over 2. Doesn't work. You get a similar problem if you try to use the let function, which is frankly the bread and butter of modern Excel. So let's define nums as these numbers, and up to an extent COUNTIFS still works, because to begin with they still are cell references. So you could say COUNTIFS nums and equal to or over 3, and it should still work. But see what happens if you simply add 0 to these. Now, some of you Power BI users might know that in Power BI this breaks the data lineage. And in Excel there's a similar issue. These cease to be cell references when you simply add 0 to them. They will still return the same numbers, they will still be the same values for all other intents and purposes, but they cease to have cell references. So COUNTIFS breaks. The good news is there's a surprisingly easy solution. Just use the sum function. You heard me right. One of the oldest functions in Excel that even predates it goes all the way back to VisiCalc in 1979, the grandmother of all spreadsheet functions, sum. And what we do here is simply select the numbers like that, and we'll notice this little internal nested bracket, and let's see, all of these numbers greater than 3. That's our condition, and then just add 0 to the end of it. And it should reliably count how many of these. Actually, we should be using nums. Nums greater than 3 plus 0. It says that correctly. So what's going on? Why is sum working when COUNTIFS isn't? Well, let's take a look at what happens to that internal nested condition. If we take all of these and do a condition for them, let's say B3 to B12 greater than 3, you'll see a bunch of trues and falses appear. In this case, 1 false. And these values, logical values, are to Excel equivalent to 1 and 0, but sum can't read them yet. If you tried to fit them into a sum function like this, it would return 0, because it's not really recognizing them as numbers yet. But what happens when you do some dummy arithmetic to them? You can change their data type, and suddenly sum becomes COUNTIF. If you want a SUMIFS substitute, you can do a similar trick. Let's say you want to add up all of these numbers where the parallel column shows a Clippy icon. All you have to do is select the parallel column, equal, and select the Clippy cell, and you can highlight it and go F9 if you want it to actually be the paperclip emoji value, and then multiply it by these. And you will get the total of all the Clippy cells. And if we get rid of the sum, we can start seeing what happens internally. It's taken zeros for all of these which are false and do not equal Clippy are returning 0, while all of the Clippy ones are returning the number. And because this is already arithmetic, you don't need any dummy arithmetic. You've basically turned sum into SUMIFS with fewer things to type. Now suppose you want multiple conditions, which is another thing that those ifs functions can do. So we'll go back to our let, where nums is greater than 3. Now instead of dummy arithmetic with the +0, we can multiply them to count ones where nums is smaller than 16. Oops, again I should be using the named variable. Nums smaller than 16 multiplied by nums greater than 3. It's returning a bunch of columns of trues and falses, as you can see here, and multiplying them against each other, and if it's true multiplied by true, it returns a 1 and it gets counted. That's all there is to it. And now you can see that the correct answer is 8. Well, thanks for watching, and see you next time on Excelopithecus.